My name is Yasmin J. Singleton, and I was 32 years old when I finally learned that something better can be a person, but sometimes it has to be yourself first. I used to think something better meant a promotion, a cleaner apartment, a bigger title, the kind of goal you chase through calendars and late nights. I never understood that I could be someone's temporary shelter, while he stood at the window waiting for a permanent upgrade. For 6 months, I was that shelter for Soren Reed, and the night I overheard him say I was just someone he was seeing until something better came along, I took my coat, left his behind, and walked out. It started beautifully, which is always how these stories get dangerous. Soren was all sparkling chaos and camera-ready charm, a lifestyle content guy with perfect hair, messy ambition, and a way of making every ordinary moment look like it belonged in a sponsored post. I was the steady one, a project manager who lived by calendars, budgets, and backup plans. He called me his anchor. I thought that meant love. Looking back, it meant utility. I organized his closet when he said he could never find anything. I fixed his laptop when it crashed the night before a pitch. I answered late-night voice notes about brand collaborations, algorithm changes, and friends who had bad energy. Once, 2 months in, a partnership fell through and he came over devastated. I left work early, bought ingredients for his favorite truffle risotto, and stood at the stove stirring for 40 minutes while he scrolled on the couch, complaining that the brand had no vision. When I handed him the bowl, he photographed it, posted it, took 3 bites, and said, "It's a little rich, don't you think?" I ate mine in silence. It tasted like effort. It tasted perfect. The signs were there if I had wanted to read them. When I asked about an immersive art exhibit in September, he laughed through a charcoal face mask and said, "September? Yasmin, that's basically another lifetime. Something better will probably pop up." When I brought him to my friend's rooftop barbecue, he performed the ideal boyfriend all evening, hand on my arm, laughing too loudly at my jokes. In the car afterward, he said my friends were settled, like it was a disease. "Your friend David talked about property taxes for 10 minutes, he said, checking his reflection. And his wife wore a sweater from Target, visibly. "They're good people," I said. "They're settled people," he corrected. "Different thing." The label conversation came later, in that soft haze after intimacy, when honesty feels possible. My sister had invited him to our family lake trip in July, and I asked if I should tell her he was coming. He stiffened against me. "Labels are so corporate, Yasmin, so final. Can't we just enjoy this?" I wanted final. I wanted a box. I wanted to be his girlfriend in rooms where he was not performing. But I nodded into his shoulder and said, "Yeah, just enjoying it." The end began at the Aviary, a rooftop bar where his friend Trevor was celebrating his birthday. The crowd was Soren's ecosystem: influencers, aspiring actors, brand strategists, people who spoke like every sentence had been workshopped for engagement. I wore a jacket Soren picked out because, as he said while smoothing the lapels, "You need to look the part." The part, apparently, was accessory. I paid for the Uber Luxe. I paid for the cocktails he and Trevor photographed. I stood near a heat lamp holding drinks while Soren floated from group to group, glowing under attention that did not require commitment. Around 11, he shivered dramatically and said, "Can you grab my coat? The black wool one. My clutch is in the pocket." A simple errand, one final functional task. The cloakroom was a mirrored alcove separated from the lounge by glowing bead curtains. I gave the attendant the ticket. As he turned, the party noise dipped and Trevor's voice sliced through. "So, spill. Is Yasmin your girlfriend now? 6 months is basically marriage." My hand froze. Soren laughed, not nervously, casually, cruelly. "God, no. Just someone I'm seeing until something better comes along." The world went silent inside me. "She's sweet," he continued. "Pays for things, doesn't complain, reliable. But come on, Trevor. A project manager? She budgets for fun. She's placeholder material, comfortable, boring. Trevor asked, So you're using her? It's strategic positioning, Soren said. She's my stability base camp. Everyone needs one before they summit the real peak. The attendant held out Soren's coat. I looked at it, then reached for my own practical wool coat, the one Soren always called too sensible. Ma'am, the other coat? He can get it himself, I said. Then I walked out into the cold night, leaving Soren upstairs with his future circles. 20 minutes later, he called. Yasmin, where the hell did you go? My coat is still here. I said, finding something better. Then I hung up. The cold night air did not hit me like pain. It hit me like permission. Every step away from the aviary made Soren's voice smaller, until it became just another bad sound trapped behind glass. Placeholder material. Stability base camp. Comfortable. Boring. I repeated the words in my head, not to torture myself, but to make sure I never softened them later. People like Soren survive on revision. Give them enough time and cruelty becomes a joke. Humiliation becomes miscommunication. And your exit becomes overreacting. I wanted the memory clean. I did not go back to the apartment. Not yet. That place still smelled like him, like bergamot cologne and ambition funded by other people. I drove to a 24-hour business hotel near the airport, the kind with blank walls, anonymous hallways, and front desk staff trained not to ask why someone checks in at midnight with mascara still intact, but eyes that look emptied out. In the room, I set my phone on the desk. It lit up immediately. Soren, Soren, Soren. I watched his name flash again and again, a frantic little firefly trapped under glass. After the 10th call, I answered. Not for him, for myself. Yasmin, what the hell? He snapped. Where are you? My coat is still here and I'm freezing. The Uber surge is insane. Are you having some kind of tantrum? No guilt, no awareness, no fear that he had hurt me, just inconvenience. I did not raise my voice, finding something better. Then I ended the call and powered the phone off completely. The silence after that was absolute, and for the first time in 6 months, nobody needed me to regulate it for them. The next morning, I moved like I was managing a high-risk project. No emotion in the execution, only order. I bought a burner phone from a convenience store, drank bitter hotel coffee, and drove to our apartment at 10, knowing Soren rarely woke before noon after nights out. Walking inside felt like entering a museum exhibit titled, Woman Mistakes Usefulness for Love. The gallery wall of his curated photos, the expensive candles I bought because he said they improved the energy, the throw pillows he chose but never washed, the faint smell of his hair product in the hallway. I went straight to my study, the one room he mocked as my corporate cave, and rarely entered. That was where the real pieces of me lived. My grandfather's watch, my hiking boots, my books, my passport, work documents, camera gear. The old sweatshirt from college he said made me look like a suburban dad, even though I loved it. I filled 3 suitcases with everything that was authentically mine. I left every gift he had given me. The sleek tie he said would make me look less middle management. The novelty mug that said spreadsheet queen. The expensive perfume that smelled like someone he wished I would become. Those things belonged to the version of me he had been trying to edit. Then I opened my laptop and removed myself from the shared utilities. Electricity transferred, internet disconnected from my card, grocery delivery password changed, streaming accounts logged out. I left my key on the kitchen counter beside the empty coffee pot I had always filled before he woke up. No note. He had already written the ending for us upstairs at the aviary. By noon, I was in a new apartment across town. Sparse, modern, clean. A lease in my name only. When I finally turned on the new phone and checked the forwarded messages from my old number, Soren's delusion unfolded in timestamps. 11:03 p.m. That wasn't funny. I had to pay $90 for an Uber. You owe me. 11:47 p.m. Okay, fine. You're mad. Come home so we can talk like adults. 2:14 a.m. Yasmin, I'm worried now. This isn't like you. Are you safe? 9:15 a.m. My key isn't working. Did you change something? 10:05 a.m. Where are all your things? Call me. What is happening? I archived everything. Data points in a closed case. A week later, the first flying monkey arrived. Trevor called from an unknown number, voice syrupy with fake concern. Yasmin, Soren is really hurting. He said you overheard something out of context and just bolted. Trevor? I said calmly. You asked if I was his girlfriend. He said, God, no. Then he called me his placeholder. Where is the missing context? Silence. Well, Trevor muttered, it was private guy talk. You weren't supposed to hear it. I was getting his coat, the coat he asked me to get. He had no answer. If Soren is crying, I said, it isn't over losing me. It's over losing access. Then I hung up. The placeholder had vacated the position. Peace, I discovered, was not just the absence of noise. It was the presence of a quiet so deep I could finally hear myself think again. In the first weeks after I left Soren, I kept expecting grief to ambush me. I expected to miss the chaos, the late-night voice notes, the performative affection, the way he could turn a 5-minute errand into a crisis that somehow required my money, my calendar, and my apology. But instead, every morning in my new apartment felt cleaner. I woke up and the coffee pot was empty because I had not filled it for someone else. The silence belonged to me. I went back to the gym. I read books again. Real books with dog-eared pages, not branding guides Soren insisted I should understand if we were going to move in better circles. I saw my old friends, the ones he used to call settled and predictable. David and his wife invited me over for dinner, and she baked cookies after hearing the stripped-down version of the rooftop story. Good riddance, David said, sliding a plate toward me. No analysis, no judgment, just loyalty. It felt almost medicinal. Work became the first place where I felt powerful again. Without Soren's constant emotional weather systems draining me, I poured myself into a high-stakes systems integration project that had been hanging over my team for months. The work was difficult, precise, and strangely soothing. Problems had causes. Timelines had consequences. People said what they needed and then followed up in writing. 3 months after the rooftop, my boss called me into his office and closed the door. For one terrifying second, I thought something was wrong. Instead, he smiled and said, "The client loved it. The efficiency gain is ridiculous. We're promoting you to senior project lead. Significant bump. Bonus, too." I thanked him calmly, but in the elevator afterward, I pressed a hand to my mouth and laughed. This was mine, not shared, not used as background for someone else's lifestyle post. Mine. Soren's karma did not arrive with thunder. It leaked in quietly through people who no longer believed his version. The first update came from Mike, a mutual friend in tech who had always been more neutral than dramatic. His text was careful. "Hey, hope you're good. Saw Soren at a launch party. He's telling people you had some mental health crisis and ghosted him. But Jenna heard from Trevor what actually happened, that he got caught calling you a placeholder. Story's shifting. Just FYI. I read it twice, then replied, "Thanks, all good here." The mental health angle was predictable. People like Soren cannot simply be left. They need the exit to prove something broken about the person walking away. If I was unstable, then he was not cruel. If I was dramatic, then he was not exposed. If I vanished because of a crisis, then he did not have to admit I vanished because I finally heard the truth. Then came the professional karma. I did not seek it out. LinkedIn placed it in front of me like a gift from an algorithm with a sense of humor. A contact at Vector Media posted a congratulatory announcement about their new brand ambassador. The agency Soren had name-dropped at the aviary. The deal, he said, was basically done. The chosen ambassador was a younger creator with a smaller following, but an actual community and a reputation for authenticity. Authentic. I smiled at the word because it was the one thing Soren could imitate beautifully and never actually be. His social media became a study in emotional performance. Melancholy sunsets with captions about betrayal, mirror selfies about leveling up alone, gym photos where he looked hollow under perfect lighting. The comments shifted over time. At first, strangers sent flame emojis and heart hands. Then, real-life acquaintances began asking sharper questions. Under one photo of him staring pensively out a coffee shop window, someone wrote, "Thought you were summiting the real peak with Vector. Heard that fell through. Everything okay?" The comment disappeared within an hour. Mike sent me the screenshot with the subject line, "Karma's a quiet browser history." The final satisfying data point came from Mr. Chun, my old landlord, who called to confirm my official change of address. "All settled, Miss Singleton," he said. "You are no longer on the Maple Avenue lease. Mr. Reed has assumed full financial responsibility." Then he hesitated. "He has been late twice already. Complaints about parties have increased. It is unfortunate. You were a very quiet tenant." "I hope it works out for him," I said, with no hope in my voice at all. When I hung up, I looked around my clean apartment. My books on the shelf, my hiking boots by the door, my laptop humming on the desk. The unraveling was his. The peace was mine. The first direct breach in my new life came exactly 3 months after the rooftop. I was sitting at my kitchen table, eating toast over a plate because I had finally stopped pretending dinner needed to look curated, when my new phone buzzed with an unknown number. The message was short, dramatic, and unmistakably Soren. "Yasmin, it's me. Please don't ignore this. My mom is in the hospital. It's her heart. I'm a mess and I'm all alone. I don't know who else to call. I really need you right now." For 1 second, my hand froze over the screen. Then the old training tried to wake up. Check on him, fix it, be kind, be stable. But something sharper rose beneath it. Recognition. Soren's mother, Barbara Reed, was not exactly private. She posted daily sunrise yoga videos, motivational captions, and green juice recipes as if social media were her second bloodstream. I opened Facebook from my laptop. 4 hours earlier, Barbara had posted a photo of herself doing a handstand on a beach with the caption, "Living my best life." Her heart, apparently, was strong enough for inversions and hashtags. I stared at the message from Soren for a long moment, then saved the contact under one name, Soren Tactics. I did not reply. I did not block him yet either. I wanted a record of the trajectory. The second attempt came angrier and more physical. He found my new gym. I still do not know whether he got the address from an old receipt, a mutual acquaintance, or obsessive scrolling through my sparse Instagram, which had exactly one photo of my balcony view and nothing else. I was in the middle of a bench press set when I felt someone standing too close. I racked the bar and sat up. Soren stood there in designer athleisure that had clearly never absorbed sweat, arms crossed, mouth tight, eyes bright with the kind of fury people feel when their access gets denied. "You think you can just ghost me?" he hissed. "After everything I did for you?" I took a slow drink from my water bottle. "You're blocking the rack." His face twitched. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." A few people glanced over. I wiped my neck with a towel, breathing steady. There was a time I would have rushed to protect him from embarrassment, even when he caused it. That time felt far away now. "I made you interesting," he snapped. "You were a spreadsheet with a pulse before me." I looked at him, really looked. He seemed thinner, harder, the soft glow of curated confidence replaced by something brittle. Without my stability underneath him, his sparkle had started to look like glitter on cracked glass. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said. It was the most generic customer service sentence I could find, and it landed exactly the way I wanted, like a locked door. His eyes flashed. "So you admit it? You're sorry?" "No," I said, standing. "I'm done." "It was a joke," he said quickly, switching tactics. "You took private guy talk and weaponized it. You have no sense of humor." "The joke is over, Soren," I said. "The placeholder has left the building." Then I put in my noise-canceling earbuds, lay back under the bar, and started my next set. When I sat up again, he was gone. The third attempt came through his mother. My office phone rang 2 days later, and my assistant said, "A Barbara Reed is online too. She says it's personal." I almost admired the escalation. Soren had moved from fake medical emergency to public confrontation to maternal guilt, like he was testing every old weak spot in sequence. I took the call. "This is Yasmin." "Yasmin, honey," Barbara began, voice warm enough to burn. "I'm calling about Soren. He is not well. This separation has devastated him." I leaned back in my chair and looked at the city through my office window. "What would you like me to do, Barbara?" "Forgive him. Talk to him. Be the woman I thought you were. You were always the stable one. He needs that stability now more than ever. His little career thing didn't work out, and he's feeling very insecure." There it was. "Return to your post. Resume your function." "Barbara," I said gently. "Soren told me explicitly that I was a temporary stability solution. He was correct. My stability is now my own. It is no longer a service I provide." Her warmth vanished. "You are a selfish, heartless girl." "Goodbye, Barbara." I placed the receiver down softly. No slam, no trembling, no collapse. The siege was failing because the old gates no longer existed. The Tech Forward Awards Gala was the kind of event I would have dreaded a year earlier. Too much glass, too much polished laughter, too many people speaking in acronyms while pretending not to check each other's name tags. But this time, I was not standing beside Soren as his sensible accessory, dressed to make him look better. I was there because my team had won the Innovation in Efficiency Award, because the systems integration project I led had saved the client more money than anyone expected, and because my name was printed on the program without needing to be attached to anyone else's image. I wore a black tailored dress that made me feel sharp, not decorative. My hair was pinned back. My phone was on silent. My boyfriend, Daniel, had sent flowers to my apartment that afternoon, with a card that simply said, "Go be brilliant." He was not there because this was a work event, and for once, that felt right. My success did not need to be witnessed romantically to be real. My team was around me, laughing near our table, and Marcus, my lead developer, was making jokes about how we should demand the trophy come with a lifetime supply of coffee. I went to the bar to get sparkling water for myself and a gin and tonic for Marcus. That was when I felt the old air shift. Not fear, recognition. A familiar cloud of expensive cologne and desperate polish. Yasmin. I turned. Soren stood there in a silver suit that looked designed to be photographed, not lived in. He was thinner than before, his face carefully arranged but tired underneath the makeup and lighting. Beside him stood an older woman in a red satin dress, probably his current sponsor, his new stability base camp, though she was already looking past him towards someone younger across the room. Soren held a drink he had not touched. His smile was soft, rehearsed, and almost convincing. "You look incredible," he said. "Thank you." "I heard about your award. That's amazing." He lowered his voice like we were sharing something intimate instead of standing beside a hotel bar. "I always knew you had this in you." A year ago, that sentence might have opened something in me. I would have wanted to believe he had seen my potential all along, that his cruelty was confusion, that somewhere underneath all the branding and selfishness there had been love. Now I only heard the script. Compliment the new version, attach yourself to the upgrade, pretend you were always part of the success. "I've missed you," he said. "I've been seeing a therapist, really doing the work. I realized I was self-sabotaging because I was scared of how real it was with you." I said nothing. Silence was useful. It made people reveal which part of the lie they trusted least. His mouth twitched. "What we had was real, Yasmin. I know I messed up, but it was real." I looked at him, at the man who once called me boring while wearing clothes my stability helped fund, at the man who turned my care into a stepping stone and then panicked when the step disappeared. "What we had was a transaction," I said. "You provided distraction. I provided subsidy. The transaction ended on the rooftop at the aviary." His eyes glistened, but anger flashed behind the moisture. "Do you hate me? Is that it? You have to hate me to be this cruel." I almost smiled, not because it was funny, but because he still thought every boundary was an attack if it denied him comfort. "Hate requires investment," I said. "It means you're still taking up space in someone's mind." I glanced toward my team, toward our award, toward Marcus waving 2 fingers at me because he had clearly seen the drink in my hand. "I don't think about you at all, Soren. You're a footnote in a report I filed months ago." His face went still. "Now, if you'll excuse me," I said, picking up the gin and tonic. "My colleagues are waiting." I walked away without looking back. When I reached the table, Marcus leaned in and murmured, "Who was the iceberg in the silver suit?" "No one," I said. And for the first time, it was completely true. Across the room, I saw Soren's date pat his arm absently while her eyes followed another man near the stage. Soren stood rigid in the glittering crowd, holding a melting drink, surrounded by the circles he once claimed I would never understand. He was not crying. He did not chase me. He simply looked empty, like a man finally realizing that being seen is not the same as being valued. I turned back to my team as they lifted their glasses. The trophy caught the light between us. My phone buzzed once with a message from Daniel. "Proud of you." I smiled, raised my glass, and let the noise of the gala swell around me. The placeholder had been replaced. Not by another person, not really. By peace, by purpose, by a life I no longer had to audition for. I had finally become something better.